if they don't overexpose themselves to financially to an asset class, if they want to hold on for the longer term, then
Yeah.
they're not going to get as emotional and sell out right at the wrong time.
It amazes me how they think this. They think the words bear market means that's when you sell. And I was thinking, no, no, that's not how it works.
What I find is fascinating from a psychological perspective is that bear market rallies do a great job of getting both bulls
Yeah.
and bears.
All right, guys, hello and welcome. In this particular video, Charlie and I are going to discuss an important matter. I think it's a misunderstanding that a lot of people have with regards Bitcoin and also other markets too, not just Bitcoin, probably stock markets and other key markets. And basically, Charlie, it seems to me that some people say that by the time Bitcoin or whatever market you want to call it, they said by the time Bitcoin or crypto, whatever, has dropped into a bear market, by the time it's dropped by, I don't know, 30, 40% or 50% into a bear market, it's too late. It's too late to sell. What I want to try and do in this video is to question this assumption, which a lot of people have. I'm going to show it's actually wrong. The assumption is they think that the time to sell Bitcoin, in other words, to turn it into cash and make some money out of it, is only when Bitcoin has fallen into a bear market. So they say things like, I read some comments that were saying, well, by the time Bitcoin has fallen into a bear market, it's too late to sell. So why sell at all? Why not just keep it? So I'm going to explain why this assumption they're making is completely false. It's misguided as well.
Hey guys, Alessio from the future here. Just to quickly mention, this video is not a recommendation to sell or buy Bitcoin or any crypto. This video is purely for educational purposes. And also, I do not think Bitcoin is in a bear market. So any references to a bear market in this video is purely for learning the charts. For understanding our views on the chart of Bitcoin, please see our most recent video. All right guys, thank you. Let's get back to the video.
So Charlie, first of all, in my opinion, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, most people who own Bitcoin, the majority of them have no intention of selling at all. A lot of them, honestly, don't get me wrong here. There's some intelligent people. There, for example, our viewers. I know our viewers here on this channel and our members as well. I know you guys are sophisticated and intelligent people. I know the majority of our viewers here, they're holding Bitcoin because of the potential, the technology as an investment long term. There are people out there, as I'm sure you know, as I'm sure we know, there's people out there who are using crypto and Bitcoin as a lottery ticket to make millions, as a get-rich-quick scheme. They're the ones who say they will never sell Bitcoin until it reaches a million, or I don't know, until it goes to 200, 300,000. And you know what? It could get there eventually. All I'm saying is there's a lot of people out there, the majority, who are using Bitcoin purely as a lottery ticket to make themselves rich. Those are the ones, by the way, those are the ones who will sell Bitcoin at the worst possible time. In the past, we saw Bitcoin at the worst possible time when when Bitcoin was about to bottom, that's when they sold it. Just under, I remember they sold it in the year 2022, I think it was. The majority of people sold Bitcoin when it dipped below 20K. Charlie, before I address this situation, before we go on to the question of when is a better time to sell Bitcoin and all that, and a bear market and all that, let's just address this point. What's your view on what I just said
I
regards to that?
think the one thing I'll add to what you just said, the
Yeah.
reason that people end up doing those sorts of things and selling out, and as you said, they get really excited because they want to make all this money, it's because they're overexposed to that asset
Yeah.
class. They've got too much risk on. So when the asset class pulls back, they can't handle it and they sell out right at the wrong time. It's because they put too much of their savings into a single asset class, which is all very well when it's going up. When it pulls back, they then get really worried and then pull out. If they don't overexpose themselves to financially to an asset class, if they want to hold on for the longer term, then
Yeah.
they're not going to get as emotional and sell out right at the wrong time. So I do think that one of the worst things that we see, and we see it, doesn't matter about Bitcoin, doesn't, throughout the ages, people get overexposed to a given asset class. Let's look at technology stocks in the late 1990s as a great example. Overexposed, and then of course when it comes down, they can't handle. I must admit, it did fall 80%, and we'll talk
Yeah.
about that anyway. As far as technical analysis is concerned, technical analysis for the Nasdaq would have had people out way earlier, and
Yeah.
yet
True.
it fell 80 odd percent from its highs. So
Yeah, I think it's a really misguided assumption people make. They think, honestly, it amazes me how they think this. They think the words bear market means that's when you sell. And I was thinking, no, that's not how it works. You don't sell when it falls into a bear. Of course, you could if you wanted to, but no, that's not how it works. Let me just say this, guys. If you've been watching my videos, you know that the Dow theory bearish signal or the Dow theory sell signal on Bitcoin occurred much sooner, weeks ago, when Bitcoin was above 100K. I mentioned this in my video. I'll put a clip there.
Recently, my good friend and trader Manuel Bly, the DowTheory.com, he mentioned in his newsletter that Bitcoin had triggered a Dow theory bearish signal. By the way, that is not the same thing as a bear market. It's not the same thing at all. All it meant was that risk to the downside had slightly increased. And so in the members video recently, I mentioned that we could potentially see a drop down. Here's a clip.
Because of the Dow theory bearish signal, at the moment, there is an increasing or elevated risk of more downside potential. Bitcoin triggered a Dow theory bearish signal much earlier, before this significant drop lower. So it's simply not true that the only time to sell Bitcoin or whatever market is in a bear market. Simply not true. Also, there are other methods you can use to get out sooner, before a bear market. But actually, here's another point. Here's something which a lot of people actually completely miss. Even in a bear market, even after Bitcoin drops significantly, when price drops, there are usually counter rallies. There are usually what's called bear market rallies or counter rallies. Sometimes in a bear market, there's very big rallies, significant ones. I'll show some examples. Here's one. I'll put it on superimpose it. In the year 2021, 2022, we had those rallies back. After Bitcoin had dropped, Bitcoin rallied, bounced back to its averages. As also in the year 2018, it bounced back to those averages. So we see huge bounces, rallies, back to resistance. And why is that important? Because traders or investors can use those bounces and rallies to offload some of their holdings at a better price. So people who say, well, it's too late to sell in a bear market. Okay, fine. Well, what about the counter rallies? Those bear market rallies when price goes back to resistance. We could use those rallies to get out, maybe sell some of our position if we wanted to, at a better price than at the bottom, the lows. Charlie, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so okay. I mean that again historically is what fund managers do in bear markets in the stock markets as well. So it's the same sort of thing. So
Yeah.
what I find is fascinating from a psychological perspective is that bear market rallies do a great job of getting both bulls
Yeah.
and bears. So
Yeah.
the bulls come in. It's
Yeah.
starting to bounce, and so they get in only because it's just a bear market rally, so that ends up rolling over, and then that exposes the bulls. But it also exposes the bears as well, because the bears want to sell, and then these bear market rallies can be substantial.
Yeah.
We're talking 20-30% rallies,
That's right.
and then that throws the bears out, so they've shorted, thinking it's going to carry on going lower,
Yeah.
and then you get these substantial rallies, and then they close out or bail out of their positions then. So it gets both sides.
Yes.
So the psychology in a bear market is fascinating, because it's very difficult for both bulls and bears a lot of the time. Weak hands get thrown out, get thrown under the bus.
In my view, a lot of those people who say they will never sell, those hardcore never sellers, the fact is there is a point at which they cannot tolerate that pain, the pain of losing money. So when Bitcoin, for example, some years ago dropped from 60K below 20K and went to 17, 16K back in the year 2022, I think it was, some people just couldn't tolerate the pain anymore, because then they were listening to the news, and these analysts and YouTubers, they're saying Bitcoin is going to go 10K, 12K, below 10K and all that. And they're getting more panicked and panicked out. And they say, well, I might as well just sell Bitcoin before I lose everything. So they sell Bitcoin at the worst time because they can't take the pain anymore, right? And that's about the time, by the way, that's just about the time when Bitcoin is about to bottom and reverse can go higher.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I think if you're heavily invested in any asset class, and that asset class has a substantial pullback, it's going to be emotionally very difficult for you. So to hold on. And we see this cycle throughout the decades and throughout the centuries. It's the same thing, because ultimately we are all human, and humans are emotional creatures, and we get euphoric when everything's going well, and we get exuberant and too exuberant and too euphoric at times. And then at the same time, we get very pessimistic at other stages as well. And so, and we get most euphoric and most pessimistic if we're heavily invested in that given asset class, because that's going to exaggerate the emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. And guys, just to mention a couple of things before we finish this video. Firstly, if you're looking to become a member, a premium member, go ahead on this particular offer we have there to become a member. Again, this offer lasts only until the end of Christmas and New Year. But more importantly, also, guys, join me and Charlie in January. Again, the special offer that we have, the special discount that Charlie and I have for the course we're doing together in January is only going to be there for a limited time. So if you haven't yet signed up for it, go and do so. The link is right there, protradingworkshop.com. I want to thank all of you who've already signed up. Very kind of you. I much appreciate it. Just the last few words. For people who want to know what's involved in this course, Charlie, if you want to briefly just summarize just in a minute or two what people can learn on this program. Let me just say, guys, that I'll be on this course as well. I'll be covering some key points in technical analysis.
Yeah, I'm going to be talking about the approach that I use. One of the key main approaches that I use. I use multiple time frames and I use certain patterns in conjunction with sentiment as well that anyone can use, whether you're a shorter term trader or someone who's more positional as well. And these are the techniques that I use overall in my trading. So that's the element that I'm going to be teaching. But I think even more important than that, traders all around the world generally seem to have two issues. Either they have been trading for a few years, but they just can't get the pieces to come together. Or they're relatively new and they're only just starting and they just need some guidance on some methods in order to approach the markets. And really, this is for either camp of trader there. So you've got your people who are relatively new, but also people who maybe just been trying trading for on and off, and they've been doing it for a few years, but they're just not quite getting everything coming together. And I think that what you and I are going to be teaching is going to help all of those types of traders.
And guys, in case you didn't know, Charlie Burton himself has had, I think, is it correct, Charlie? Nearly 28 years of experience as a trader, professional trader. So again, you'll be getting benefit of his experience. So I highly suggest, guys, if you're a beginner trader or if you're already an experienced trader, you want to just improve your skills, this is definitely something you want to sign up for. The link is right there. I'll put it for you in the description as well. protradingworkshop.com. Check it out, full details with a discount as well. Thank you very much, Charlie. Much appreciated.